The best characters in Mortal Kombat 1 have been nerfed and the weakest characters have been buffed. That's right, there's a new balance patch and we're gonna talk all about it in detail, and if necessary, I'm gonna give visual examples too. If your favorite character was affected in this balance update, please make your voice known in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. Are you happy? Are you upset? Let me know. For anyone new to this channel, I read every single comment, but without any further ado, let's begin. First up, we have Geras, one of the most complicated characters in the entire game. I don't think anyone would argue that, and thankfully he only got buffs. First up, we have Inevitable. This attack is 21 frames instead of 26, and what this means is he can combo into it easier. Like for example, after his overhead string 2-1, he can now combo straight into Inevitable. For anyone watching who does not play Geras, that's his time freeze move that's only available when he has all 3 hourglasses stacked. And now that move is faster, which means it's easier to combo into and also a bit tougher for the opponent to react to if Geras just does it randomly. Next up, we have Timefall, which is his sweep. It now recovers 2 frames faster, which means if spaced correctly, it's now completely safe on block and a bit better on hit as well. So if Geras is right here in the opponent's face, it's still punishable, but if he's like right here, it's now safe. But then we have his Sandstorm, which now sends the opponent towards him more consistently. So basically, just imagine the opponent has a line down the middle of their body. If the Sandstorm hits behind that line, then the opponent's coming towards Geras, which is definitely going to make his combos easier, but also make Geras just scarier in the neutral, because now randomly he can pop you with that Sandstorm and send you flying all the way to him to catch those hands for a full combo. Then finally, we have his Fatal Blow, which now hits full screen. Yeah, it's a full screen Fatal Blow now, and he teleports all the way to you. It is crazy. Next up, we have Havik. Everyone has been praying for this character to get buffed, even his enemies, because they feel bad for him. First up, we have Chaos Kick, which is just circle on the PS5 controller. It now recovers 1 frame faster. Havik mains, tell me why this matters, because I can't fathom why 1 frame difference would be a big deal for anybody. This is the only change in the entire video that I can't explain why it matters. Next up is Dislocated, his front kick, which is just X on the controller. It's now faster at 13 frames instead of 15, which means it's just better at whiff punishing, so that's nice. If the opponent walks too close or misses their attack, you can pop him in the face because this move is quicker. Then we have Drop Dead. Towards front punch and then front kick now recovers 15 frames faster and has 10 less frames of block stun. Yeah, it's safe on block now, and it's easier to combo into on hit. Keep in mind, he does need a Kameo to combo after this thing. It's not special cancelable, but still, safe on block, but a full combo on hit, low risk, very high reward. Next up, we have Kitana. I find this change very funny. The combo scaling on her square wave and enhanced square wave has been reduced. And for this change, I need a video example. For anyone not aware, Kitana could always cancel enhanced square wave into any other air special move of her choosing, but the damage was never worth it. Kitana can even cancel one enhanced square wave into another enhanced square wave and keep doing that until she's out of meter, but once again, the damage was never worth it. And as a result, if you played Kitana, her meter was useless for anything except an armored attack. That's the only reason you would ever use it. And it looks like NetherRealm noticed that and said, okay, we're gonna give you one more reason to spend meter. So now if you want a bit extra damage at the end of your combo, you can spend meter on square wave because it does more damage now. Next up, we have Li Mei, and her changes are actually kind of interesting. So first up, Pancration Champion no longer has a flawless block gap, which is fantastic. This string is safe on block, but always had a gap, and as a result, pretty much nobody went for it. Now this string is no longer useless because that gap is gone. But then we have Sky Lantern, and I find this change really interesting. So if you blow this thing up on purpose with Li Mei's air projectile, it now hits mid, which means the opponent can't duck under it. They have to block this thing. And on top of that, it has 10 more frames of block stun with increased pushback. Or in other words, it's better on block, it knocks the opponent away, and they have to block it this time around. That's so cool. I'm a big fan of this change. If anything, I wish it did not push back on block, and honestly, NetherRealm, you're gonna want to hire me after hearing this idea. I think her air cartwheel should also ignite the lantern. It has the perfect arc. She goes down towards the opponent. It should also detonate the lantern. But next up, we have Lion's Pounce, her overhead kick. It's forward plus front kick. It now has 3 more active frames and recovers 7 frames faster. This makes it +0 on block, or if spaced correctly, where she only hits at the very end of the flip, it's now plus on block, which is kinda cool, but Li Mei's a bit further back, so it's hard to reinforce this frame advantage. However, even so, 3 more active frames means it's easier to land a hit with, and recovering faster is always great regardless of anything. Johnny Cage. Most people believe this character is the best in the entire game, and thankfully he only caught nerfs in this update. First up is the parry. It's now 8 frames on startup instead of 6, which means if Johnny Cage is minus even a little bit on block, he can't go for the regular parry. It's going to lose every single time as long as the opponent responds correctly. The only way regular parry is going to work on block now is if Johnny Cage is plus. Otherwise, it's not a good option. He's going to lose every time. And the enhanced version is also slower as well. It's now 4 frames on startup instead of 0 and has more recovery frames, 15. So if you predict the parry and just wait, Johnny Cage is dead now. He can't prolong the parry like he could in the past. He just gets comboed now, which is already great news. But on top of that, if Johnny Cage is -4 or more on block, he can't go for this parry. And once again, it's worth repeating, neither of these parries can be held down anymore or extended. So if Johnny Cage misses the parry because you predict it, you can punish him with the same timing every single time. Then finally, we have Shadow Kick, which is 10 frames instead of 8 frames now, and has 2 more recovery frames on miss. So if you dodge this attack, it's now slightly easier to punish Johnny, but it's still going to be really crazy hard, and 10 frames is still unreactable, but it's a bit slower now. Next up, we have Nitara, the worst character in the game according to many pros, including Sonic Fox, and I have to agree. I don't think any character in this game is bad, but Nitara is definitely lacking, and her change does not have me very excited. Simply put, her must-feed string is now a combo starter. You can special cancel it on hit and block, but it's got reduced damage, and as a result, the combo that follows does less damage than her other combo starter that everybody was already using. And even though this new string is safe on block, it still has a gap, so the opponent can armor through it, or they can flawless block it. You get the idea. It's really not a very useful buff unless you're super casual, because this new combo starter is easier to hit confirm, and on block you can do some funny shenanigans here and there to try and do a mix-up or whatever, but it's still minus, so the opponent can definitely hit you out of it. It's a nice option to have, I suppose, but at the high level, I really don't see this change making much of a difference, which is hilarious because just a couple of days ago, I made a full video on how to fix Nitara, and none of my complaints were about a different combo starter. But alright, next up, let's talk about Reptile. He got some love in this update, pretty much only buffs, and that's awesome. For starters, his overhead is finally safe now. Yeah, that really fast overhead that does not combo, it just knocks the opponent down and does baby damage, it's now finally safe on block. It's no longer combo punishable, so that's already good news. But then if you hold the overhead down, it's also better on block in every single example. So there's a fast version, a medium speed version where you charge it a bit, and then a fully charged version, and all of them are now better on block. So more plus on block means better frame advantage, right? But it knocks the opponent away, so unless you have them cornered, you can't really reinforce too much, but it's still plus, you know, plus is plus. But then we have Tale of Two Hitties and Sneaky Lizard. These strings end with a low tail sweep that knocks the opponent down and can be followed up with a Kameo character to keep the combo going, and they're all better on block now. Sneaky Lizard is completely safe on block, by the way, so that's a fantastic change. If you land the string, it's a full combo. If the opponent blocks it, you're still safe, so low risk and a good reward. And then we have Acid Spit, Enhanced Acid Spit Ball, and Enhanced Acid Spit Ball now have 5 more block stun frames. So this helps Reptile against opponents who love to run away, because all of his projectiles are now a bit better on block. In fact, the Acid Spitball from full screen is now so good on block that you can do an entire dash attack and still have time to block from what I've tested. It's really that good on block now. At the very least, you can guarantee a dash when the opponent's like jumping distance or further. So in other words, if the opponent's trying to run away, you can use the Acid Ball, make them block it, and then dash in behind it and get a little bit closer. So it's harder to zone Reptile. That's great news. Next up, we have Sub-Zero. Freezing Point. That's his 3-hitting low combo ender, is now -7 on block, so it's no longer combo punishable. But that said, I do believe the gap is still there, so the opponent can still armor through it or still flawless block it, but hey, at least it's safe. That's fantastic. Then we have Blistering Blizzard. Back punch, front punch now recovers 2 frames faster and has more consistent combo damage on airborne and grounded opponents. That's a big deal because 2-1 is great on airborne or grounded opponents, but the damage was reduced if they were in the air. Now it's the same or very similar, so that's good. It's a great combo starter, so I'm glad the damage is more consistent now. Overall, not a very good change for Sub-Zero, but Chameleon did not get nerfed, so as a result, Sub-Zero is still like mid-tier or better if you have Chameleon. Next up, we have Scorpion. His heavy knee cancel frame is now 2 frames earlier and has 1 less recovery frame. So what this means is there's no longer a gap if you go into some of his special moves, like the spinny attack that does tons of chip damage. There is no longer a flawless block gap on that first hit anymore, so that's a really big deal. It means more chip damage damage guaranteed, which is pretty much all Scorpion has going for him, let's be honest. But then Fire Pillar Thrust, that's the new string that he got a couple months ago. It now starts up in 18 frames instead of 19, so once again, that gap is gone. You can no longer armor this string to escape that final hit, and you can't flawless block it either. So this string is now finally a true hit confirm. If Scorpion does this string and it lands, he gets a combo or a full combo with the right Kameo, but if it's blocked, there's no risk. It is completely safe to everything. But now, last but not least, for the main fighters, we have Peacemaker. He caught only nerfs because, like Johnny Cage, he's a top 2 character. So Human Torpedo and Enhanced Human Torpedo now start up slower at 16 frames instead of 12, which is still unreactable for 99% of players, but even so, it's a bit slower, so from a distance, maybe you can react to it, but up close, it's still instant. But that said, if Peacemaker misses, he's stuck on the ground for 13 more frames, which makes him easier to punish if he's further away, because then he falls down like right behind you and you get a full punish. And then if you block it, he does not knock you away anymore with the regular version, which makes it even easier to punish because it's now more unsafe on block. So if you block Human Torpedo, it's a full punish against Peacemaker. Unfortunately though, the enhanced version does still have pushback. It's still completely punishable because it's more unsafe, but it's a bit trickier to punish because enhanced version does knock you back a bit on block, so just dash in and punish him. Honestly, I would dash in and punish every time just to be consistent and never mess yourself up. But then we have Eagly, perhaps the most broken aspect of Peacemaker. Both the eagle attacks have been nerfed. Beautiful Bird Bullet now has 10 less frames of block stun and less pushback, so it's easier to punish, or at the very least you can move in and pressure Peacemaker. And then with Ground Air Offensive, there's 5 less frames of block stun and once again less pushback, so easier to punish, or at the very least you can move in and force Peacemaker to block. He can no longer just use this move and then backdash guaranteed. You're in his face and either punish him or he's got to deal with you at the very least. You can't just backdash the whole time. But then we have Force Field. This move is now impossible to activate in neutral because it has 30 more frames of recovery. Or in other words, if Peacemaker goes for this, you can just dash in and punish him for a full combo or do a quick special move that travels far because it's 30 frames where he can't do anything to stop you from hitting him. The only way Peacemaker gets this off is in the middle of a combo or by using some Kameo that keeps you in place long enough for 30 frames. That's a long time. 30 frames is crazy, but you know what? Deserved. But then last but not least, the main nerf that I wanted to see for Peacemaker, his anti-gravity teleport where he comes down with the elbow of justice now does 35 damage on block instead of 50. That's right, the block damage has finally been nerfed. That's the main thing I was complaining about with Peacemaker because having a teleport that safe is already crazy, and then on top of that he can choose to not do the attack and throw people off if they go for an up block. It's just all around way too good of a teleport, tracks the opponent's location too, but now finally, at the very least, the chip damage has been almost cut in half. That's great. Alright, now it's time for the Kameo fighters. First up we have Sonya, and it looks like NetherRealm watched this video that I made because I roasted Sonya and said like no one plays as Kameo, which is true because she didn't offer anything special, but now she actually kind of does. Her leg grab now has 25 startup frames instead of 29, which makes it much easier to combo into for a vast majority of the characters, and it hits overhead. So if your main character has low mix-ups, you can now call in Sonya instead for a 50-50, and get this, it's +1 on block. That's right, before it was -9, so punishable. Now it's +1, but the issue is there's a lot of pushback, so it's not really good for frame traps. Instead, it pretty much resets the neutral. You and your opponent are pretty much at square one now. You're about this far away and nobody can really do anything, so it's back to neutral, which if you ask me is fine because it's still an overhead mix-up and it's plus. That's pretty crazy. This now makes Sonya one of Nitara's best Kameo partners because the combo damage was already crazy, but now on top of that, she's safe on strings too. That's really cool. Next up, we have Striker. So fixed an issue where the second grenade and low grenade toss or high grenade toss would sometimes have an additional combo gravity. So not a huge deal. This probably never happened to anybody, but that issue's been fixed. This next change though is kind of interesting. So Cuffed now has 9 less frames of recovery on miss, is +1 on block now instead of -9, and Striker reaches further to grab the opponent. So it's harder to miss with, and even if it's blocked, it's plus now. That's pretty awesome, and has 9 less frames of recovery, so Striker leaves sooner. All of these are great changes, which means Striker can just bully the opponent now. You can call him randomly in neutral, he runs in and handcuffs them for no reason. Like, it's just better in every regard hard now. It's gonna be super annoying for the opponent. Striker just landing back shots the entire match. Next up, we have Motaro adjusted the teleport location when main fighter isn't facing the opponent. So once again, a bug fix. I haven't seen anybody show visually how this is a big deal, but hopefully it just means his teleport is more consistent. Then finally, we have Movado increased base health from 250 to 200. Yeah, so for anyone not aware, Movado was the only Kameo partner who reduced your health when you teamed up with him. He gave your main character minus 100 health. Now instead, it's only minus 50, so a bit of a buff in that regard. It's no longer a death sentence to pair Movado up with certain characters anymore. Now that said, I kinda wish they just undid the other nerfs and kept his health the same, but now those nerfs are still here. But to say kind of, we're sorry, still please play the DLC character, please guys, he's still good, we promise. NetherRealm gave him a bit more health, and that's the only change he got. Alright everyone, and that's it for the changes in the new balance patch. Most characters got buffed, especially the lower tier characters, and then the top dogs, Johnny Cage and Peacemaker, got nerfed. As mentioned earlier, I want to know your thoughts in the comments below, especially if you main any of these characters that got adjusted. Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you angry? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I hope you enjoyed my breakdown. If you did, please leave a like down below. It helps the channel out a ton, and then keep that combo going by subscribing and ringing that bell so you never miss any future videos. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.